Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the Parashat for a few minutes. Let's recap briefly what some of the things we did, and then we're going to build on them. So we said that when Yaakov leaves home, in direction of the house of Laban, right, to go back to family, so to speak, so he could find somebody. He could A, save himself, and B, maybe find somebody to build his life with. Okay, so we said that a bunch of extraordinary things happen. He's in the direction of Haran, going to where he was, where Abraham's family was for a period of time. He's going back there, and Vayifga b'makom, right? So what happens? The place hits him. The place, sort of punches him, kind of thing. And it's very curious. Hey, Ma Kawayani. It's very curious that.
Hey, Rabbi. How are you?
Okay. It's very curious. The term Vayifga b'makom is a curious term. And we said that we said that effectively he shouldn't have been in that place, and that place shouldn't have been where it was. So his journey was hurried, and Hamoriah, the place that the Beit HaMikdash would ultimately be built on, was moved to his area. Okay, so we see a few extraordinary elements there, which we talked about last time. Then he takes Me'avnei, and then Vayalen Sham Ki Ba Hashemesh. We said the term Ba. We said the term Ba is also a curious term. We don't use the term that the Shemesh. Hey, Stephen. How are you, honey? Great to see you.
You too.
That the Shemesh came. Ki Ba Hashemesh. It's an awkward term. And here again, we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu manipulated events to cause night to descend on him, so that this could all take place, so that this prophecy could take place. All right. Nathan, hard to hear. I'm sorry. Nathan. Want to tell him? Sorry, guys. Okay, it's just hard to hear. There's a guy yelling out in the room here. Okay, so he takes Mabnei Makom, and our rabbis wonder what that is, and they say that being that he was in Haramoriah, being that he was being that he was in the mountain that would ultimately be the Temple Mount, what was there were the stones that Abraham Avinu used to build the altar that Yitzchak was placed on. So the Midrash says that Haramoriah was moved to be much closer to where Yaakov was in his journey out of the country. Haramoriah was moved, and Haramoriah had on it the stones that made up the altar that Yitzchak was nearly sacrificed on. Hi, Joe. Good morning. Make up the altar that Yitzchak was nearly sacrificed on. So Yaakov takes deliberately or unknowingly, he takes some of those stones, he gathers them together, he has nothing to lie down on, and he puts his head down on those stones. So what we see at the outset is an extraordinary events, manipulated events, to bring a certain place to him and to enable a certain level of understanding by him. So this is all manufactured. HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks up Haramoriah, so to speak, literally or otherwise, moves it to where Yaakov Avinu is, plunks it down, makes him aware of the stones that are in the core place, right? The place where the Mizbeach would be and was. And he puts his head down on those. Okay, he puts his head down on those stones. Okay, so the immediate suggestion is that there's a connection back to his father. there's a connection back to his father, and that the lineage is reaffirmed. Why would we question this? We question it because here he was running away from the country. Esav stayed in Eretz Israel, had children in Eretz Israel. Yaakov is running away. The question is this thing going to work? Might Esav step up and grab the mantle? Because he ends up being there, and Yaakov ends up having most of his children outside the country. So it's a scary situation for Yaakov, where he says, you know what, maybe I'm going to lose it all. Who knows that anything is going to stay with me? Good so far? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to manipulate several events to make Yaakov firm and strong in his direction, and to make it clear to him that nothing will be taken from him, and in fact, everything will be given to him. So as the context to start where we are, let's start where we are by saying Yaakov is very frightened. Yaakov is very frightened, doesn't understand what may happen to him, has a concern about Esav, who was still home with mom and dad. He was still home with mom and dad, and he was in the country, and he took a wife they didn't want, but he was going to be having children there in the country who will be getting the beracha of Eretz Israel. It's a very big thing that he would not have for his children. He would not have that for his children. Okay. Okay. We talked about one way of understanding the Sulam. I'm going to recap it quickly, and then we're going to learn it in a different way. What we talked about was that the Sulam Mutzav Aretza, right? The ladder had its feet in the earth, and its top in the heavens, right? That's how the Sulam, how the ladder is described, with the angels going up and down, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu on top. So we learned in detail last time on Sunday that what is this teaching Yaakov Avinu? It's teaching Yaakov that these worlds are absolutely connected, that there's a free flow between a physical world, which you would think can't possibly flow into an absolutely non-physical world. There's an absolute flow, an uninterrupted flow, and most of what goes on starts down here. Most of what goes on starts down here. Okay, so the angels that go up are the angels that were either here from the beginning of time, or the angels that came with to send the message to Abraham, or the angels are really not angels at all. The angels are not angels at all. Rather, they're the actions that a person does in this world that invariably go up. The Ramchal says that the way we understand this story is not to focus on angels specifically, but to teach us that whatever we do here, as we've learned, absolutely goes up to the heavens. Okay? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu re-emphasizes in the way we learn the story on Sunday that he's there, center on top, and that the human being has absolute access to him. Good? Okay? We're good with that, guys? That was the way we did it. That was the way we learned the story, and it's very important to understand the story that way because it was critical to Yaakov's life. But it was critical to reaffirming that Yaakov understood that how it worked, and that wouldn't be taken from him when he leaves the land. Yeah, honey.
So either if you go by the Ramchal's way of the angels not being angels, or the way we did first, it makes this the same narrative still applies.
Exactly. We're either going to hold that they're angels carrying up our actions, right? Our actions, our words, our thoughts, or we're going to hold that they weren't angels at all. They were just the actions, words, and thoughts that move in a non-physical form to a completely non-physical place. Good? Okay.
Thank you. And either way, there's that connection from with Hashem and Yaakov saying that he's going to continue to hold the mantle.
Perfect. Exactly. That's right. Exactly. Now, we're going to do another round on this, briefer round, but another round, because I want you to understand it from two critical perspectives. And again, the focus here is not on Yaakov. The focus is on us. The focus is on us. Everything that Yaakov is, we are. Every piece of understanding and awareness that Yaakov achieves is us. We have to remember that. Abraham is Abraham and Yitzchak is Yitzchak, right? Our lives are consumed in their life. In other words, Abraham, for example, Abraham had the 10 tests, the pinnacle test being that everything he ever believed in and built his life in was compromised. We will have the same thing, right? We're going to have it. We're going to have a point in our lives where everything we ever thought made sense is put into question. And we will deeply question ourselves, God willing. That's what Abraham is. That's what he represents for us. The Jewish people will follow the path of Abraham Avinu in general. We'll follow the path of Abraham Avinu specifically, individually. That's Abraham. Yitzchak, we know, is Gevurah, which means that when I reach out and I strive and I take a shot like Abraham did, then I need resilience that comes overwhelming me from personal restraint in order to see it through, right? As we said, without Yitzchak, the Abraham revolution couldn't have been maintained. Without Yitzchak being the manager, the implementer, right? The day-to-day supervisor, so to speak, in round two, Abraham's great vision for the world would have been lost. Now comes Yaakov. And here's where it gets very critically important for us. And we have to pay a ton of attention. Yaakov is us. Yisrael is us. And we need to understand it because Yisrael really is the father of the Jewish people, truly. Abraham is the father of religions in general, we say, and the discoverer of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the champion of Chesed in that sense. But Yaakov is really daddy. Okay, so whatever is brought into the life of Yaakov is us directly. So just have that in mind with him. Okay, so now the other side, the parallel understanding of the Sulam of the ladder is as follows. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to teach Yaakov that the tzaddik, i.e., all of us, right? We learn this. What is a tzaddik? A tzaddik is a person who understands his strengths and works it, does it, builds with it, right? And this is very important. I'm gonna pick out Abe Shalach for a minute, okay? I'm gonna pick on him for a minute, right? He's family from my son-in-law's side. I guess Joe, you're included in this. When people have achieved a certain name, right? When they've achieved a certain name. And a certain capacity to build, they want to chase that. They want to be doing it. Now, it doesn't mean that a person runs after everything that comes his way, but we said that the tzaddik understands who he is. Izzy, the tzaddik understands who he is. Young man, the tzaddik understands who he is. The tzaddik understands what he can do and therefore must do it. Now, in this case, we're talking about the story of the ladder 2.0. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching that the tzaddik is the one that breaks through. The tzaddik, more than anybody else, is the one who has the capacity to connect both the physical and the non-physical with his direction. So I want to go back on this. The story of the Sulam didn't happen to everybody. It does. As to the way we learned it the first time. Does it represent the overall machination of things? Yes. The overall structure of things is that it's physical, non-physical. Good? But older guys, right? We understand more the tzaddik concept. We understand that the tzaddik is the one who hangs up his shingle or hers and is building the world and his family based on the kochot that they have. And never are we allowed to minimize our kochot. Never. We're not allowed. We're not allowed to be humble. We're not allowed to be shy. We're not allowed to be, all this stuff is not Jewish. Israel is the champion of who he is. And what our rabbis say here is that sulam mutzav arza, that ladder that seamlessly connects both realities, is the overwhelming domain of the tzaddik. The tzaddik has much greater access to it. And you guys tell me why. Young guys, you can find in on this also. Why does tzaddik have the greatest access to that? What do you say?
Most people are going to say that because the Tzaddik is closer to Hashem. I'm going to go so far as to say is that the Tzaddik at one point has been furthest from Hashem.
Okay, so flesh that out a little bit.
Meaning, to sail through life is easy, and it's hard to challenge yourself when you haven't been challenged. Yet the person who has had hardship, who knows pain, who knows what it takes to get out of that, is the true person that can see Hashem in everything, and that's a tzaddik.
Okay, good, but go further. Go further? You're right. Go further. The tzaddik is not only the person who feels pain and moves beyond it, but what more? What more?
He gives it also to other people. So it's the compassion that comes from being kind to yourself, you then give to others.
Right, and it doesn't have to be compassion. It doesn't have to be compassion. It doesn't have to come from basic.
Okay, so lack of no compassion.
Right. Okay. Or it simply comes from a place of duty and responsibility. It comes from a place of duty and responsibility, whether it's compassionate or not. I know who I am. I know what I can do. Therefore, I got to do it. I know who I am. Therefore, I know what I can do. Therefore, I got to do it. I can't say this thing enough because it's hard to be a tzaddik. It's much easier to be a chacham. It's much harder to be a tzaddik. The tzaddik has to be constantly looking in and looking out and saying, I have the capacity to do X. Let's go. Yeah? Yeah. Are we okay with this? All right? Joe, any thoughts? You're all right with it? Okay.
How does it fit the Mashal of the ladder?
Okay, good. So Teddy's saying, so how does this fit back with the ladder? So our rabbis write that the one who acts this way has the greatest unfettered access between the practical and the non-practical. He has the greatest access to all that yeda, all that knowledge, all that ruach hakodesh, all that vision, all that basic grade level prophecy. He has it more than anybody. The guy or gal who sticks his neck out and wants to build has earned for himself, has grabbed for himself a level of awareness, of freedom from the limitations of the physical world that nobody else has, not even the chacham. If the chacham, let's take an example. If the chacham has the knowledge, but he doesn't break out, do something with it, who cares? Who cares? Right? Or somebody has the ability to help people, or somebody has the ability to start a new thing, or something, and they don't. So who cares? You had the ability. So what? So the chacham needs to be tzaddikified, right? To our example, in order for him to mean something. All right? So this version of the sulam is no less important than the other version, but it does highlight other things. It highlights the fact that the tzaddik has different access than anybody else. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to make it clear to Yaakov Avinu in this case that his tzidkut would not be taken away from him because he was outside the land. That whatever tzidkut he had, that whatever opportunity he had to build wasn't limited to Eretz Yisrael and can be executed wherever. Cool? Thoughts? Yeah, we're okay. Okay. I'm gonna reference something that we're doing 6:40 in the morning. Briefly, what we're doing in the morning class at this point is the 13 principles, the Yud Gimel Ikarim. And the one we're on now, I'm going to mention it today briefly. We're spending a lot of time on it, but the one we're on now, everybody's invited to join, by the way, is the concept that the primary distinction between Yaakov and Esav is that Yaakov accepts and builds his life, Yisrael, I'm sorry, accepts and builds his life, our people accept and build our lives on the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is completely involved in our lives and in this world. And even though it doesn't make any logical sense for that to be the case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes that point, and we are fully involved in that. So even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by definition, can't really seem to be involved in all of this, he chooses to be involved. We accept that he's involved. We build our lives that he's involved, and that he cares. Okay? Esav holds the opposite. Esav holds that HaKadosh Baruch Hu definitely created the world. He's definitely unique in his creation, but he couldn't care less about what goes on over here. So the other purpose of the ladder is to show Yaakov Avinu that yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares about the Jewish people. Yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is intimately involved with the Jewish people. No, what Amalek believes, what Esav believes is wrong, is completely wrong. There is care, there is connection, there is sharing, there is responsiveness. He's reiterating that to Yaakov here. And again, he's making it clear that it happens wherever you are. You don't only have to be in the land of Israel to have HaKadosh Baruch Hu's oversight. It's everywhere you are. Okay? One more point on this. Any thoughts or question, guys? All good so far?
Good.
Okay, there's one other piece that I think is very interesting, and that is, why does the story have to be told with all the graphic detail of Yaakov Avinu going to a certain place, being stopped at that place, the sun coming down irregularly, it shouldn't have come down at that point, the sun setting, taking stones, putting his head down, who cares? Just tell me that Yaakov had a prophecy. Just tell me Yaakov had a prophecy and finish. What do I need all this extra stuff? What's the point of all the trimmings? Any thoughts on what it might be? What's the point of all the trimmings here?
Maybe it's a roadmap.
The roadmap to what? Good.
Attaining the same thing. So we can't do it in the same way as he did, but showing how pay attention to detail in the situation and how he formed his life to be put in a situation like that from Hashem allowed him to get a prophecy like that, and it wasn't a prophecy that came apart completely just by Hashem wanting to give it. He had a role in it.
Excellent. Very good. Excellent. And give me more. Give me more. What else can you add? There's another element here that's a little bit of a leap. Yeah. Go ahead, Noah.
He's Israel.
I'm sorry.
And
Yeah,
he's Israel.
Yeah.
So since we drew the correlation from him to us, it's showing that we also have experiences like this where our experiences are drawn out. They're not just magically put somewhere like, Moshe, Abraham, or Yitzhak. It's not just on the spot that Hashem speaks to us. So that there's a build-up to it, and it's saying like that because he is more like us, and that's how we get the Ruach Kodesh that we do.
Super. Love it. Love it. Any other thoughts on this, guys? Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu would stage this way? Why all the pomp and all the show and all that kind of thing?
I think it's also like a process to similarly to what Noah said, where like he prepared to I don't know. I guess we don't know if he knew that he was going to encounter Hashem in a dream, but he prepared when he sat down with the with the rocks, setting up the rocks, and then he actually like physically like laid on the rocks, and that feels like it just seems like he was trying to connect by setting up a process of preparing and then actually engaging in it, and then moving on.
Excellent. So I want to give you a tip off. I want to combine what you and Noah said, and I want to give you a tip off to an area that Yaakov has to be acclimated to. As you guys described beautifully, the process and the multifacetedness of this nebuah, of this prophecy, are meant to represent all of the elements that are involved in life, all the components that have to be considered when somebody is doing something. I can't disengage from the physical world. I have to sleep. I have to put my head down. I have to put it down on something. I may have to run away from something, right? I may have to run away from something. These are all real things. So if you're going to give me the ladder and you're going to take it to the heavens, you might have me think that jump on the ladder and be off. Who needs this stuff, right? If I can connect this world to the next, why do I have to deal in this world? Why do I have to bother with it? And Yaakov Avinu struggles with it. And we're going to come back to it in a little bit, but Yaakov Avinu struggles with the idea that he should be in this world. If you remember, he's Ish Tam Yoshev Ohalim, right? He's the yeshiva guy. He's the guy who's learning all the time, right? Mommy has to call him out to prepare something for his father because his father has a physical need and wants to see his love and respect for him, not only by doing spiritually, but by physically expressing it, right? So Yaakov Avinu, we're going to see this a little more in a few minutes. Yaakov Avinu struggles with the idea that I've got to work this world too. If Yaakov Avinu had his choice, he would skip this world and just go to the spiritual world. He would just pass. Says, what do I need it for? Ultimately, I want to get to the spiritual. Ultimately, I want to get rid of all this. I know that's where the eternal gift is, the eternal considerations are. So let me just go there from now. Now, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is he says, like, there's a physical world. There's a place, there's sun, there's sleep, there's a process. Everything starts down here. He made all those points very, very clear. He just threw them in Yaakov Avinu's face. So for now, I want you to hold what the boys said, and topped off by this point, that this has to be a this world effort. That being a Sadiq is in this world, that the eternal focus that we have is never an absolutely eternal focus, that it's a this world focus that brings that. All right? And you're going to hear more about that in a few minutes. Good. Okay. Let's go a few psukim later. Let's go a few psukim later. And the Akadosh Baruch Hu tells him, look at pasuk, the 13th pasuk, chapter 28, pasuk 13. I'll read it. V'nei Adonai nitzav alav, v'yomer ani Adonai Elohei Avraham, abicha, Elohei Yitzchak, haaretz asher ata shochev alea, naf'a etnena ulezarecha. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do now, gentlemen? What is he doing? I'm going to read one more pasuk. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that this land is going to be for you and your children. Continues in the next pasuk. Vayazaracha ka'afar haaretz. Paratzta yama v'ked masavona v'negva v'bechubcha kol mishpachot adama ubezarecha. He says that you're going to have the land and that your children are going to be numerous beyond number. So what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing now?
He's transferring the blessing from Abraham through Yitzchak to him. So now he knows.
Perfect. Perfect. He's doing what we called out last time, or 2 times ago actually, is that there are certain berachot that daddy can't give, right? That Yitzchak couldn't give the boys. He couldn't give them the beracha that was given to him, nor could he give them the beracha that was given to his grandfather, Abraham Avinu. I'm sorry, to his father. Couldn't give the beracha that was given to his father, the beracha of having numerous, innumerable children, and them being protected, and the legacy of the land of Israel. Nobody could give that beracha. The only one who could give it is Hakadosh Baruch Hu himself. Hakadosh Baruch Hu gives it to Abraham. Hakadosh Baruch Hu then gives it to Yitzchak. Now he's giving it to Yaakov. So, in addition to the beracha that Yitzchak gives to Yaakov, that this world will be, the blessings of this world will come to him. Doesn't have to work too hard. This that. He's going to have all the good stuff. The blessing of Abraham Avinu also came to him now. So he knows that he's got what he needs to move forward. He's got the blessing to make it in this world, and he knows that things won't move in the direction of Esav. Rather, they'll stay in his direction, and he'll be able to be the leader of the Jewish people. Okay, let's turn to the story of Leah and Rivka. Okay, Leah and Rivka. Tell me, you guys, how do you understand the story of Leah and Rivka? Any thoughts on how Leah is portrayed, how Rivka is portrayed? I'm sorry, how Rachel, I said Leah and Rivka. Leah and Rachel. How Leah is portrayed, how Rachel is portrayed. How do we understand the two of them? And when we want to delve deeper here and really put these pieces together. Any thoughts? So let's just tell the story.
Leah's portrayed as Hazit, like she can't get a man on her own, and Lavan has to, sorry, I'm paying at the same time. He has to sketch Yaakov. But all along, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the patriarchy also. She was the older sister. We still carry that pride today. It's a matter of mutual respect.
Okay, let's see. Beautiful. Let's see. Anything else on Leah and Rachel? So to your
I think Rachel is depicted a little bit that she got slighted.
right.
But like you just said, she was okay with it, meaning she allowed it to be. Maybe she used maybe a long-term vision. Maybe she had the discipline in her mind to understand that there's probably a bigger picture here, where when we read it as a kid initially, like, oh my God, she got gypped.
Right.
But maybe there's just so much.
Both got chipped, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. Nobody. I want to give you the upshot of the story. Nobody got chipped, and this wasn't Laban's machination. It was Hakadosh Baruch Hu's machination. Nobody got chipped, and we're going to learn the story with God's help a different way. So it starts out by saying that that the eyes of Leah were less brilliant than her, and and the exaggerations click in, and they say, "Oh, she wasn't as pretty. Her eyes, whatever." Well, I want to explain it on a level that I think is much more serious, and work it with you. When we say that they didn't say
she had Ruach HaKodesh that she was going to marry Esav, no? And she was crying?
That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say.
So that would make her righteous.
Good. So the way I want to build it is as follows: that Leah's eyes were beautiful, as were her sisters. She was beautiful, as was her sister Rachel. But when we say that her eyes were a little duller than Rachel's eyes, and again, when you see something like this in the greatest book of all time, you got to say, come on, what are you talking about here? You know how we learn together to be Doresh, extra words in the Pasuk or extra letters. We also have to move beyond the Pshat, beyond the basic explanation of something that doesn't make any sense. It just can't be, right? Who cares what their eyes look like, right? Who cares? So Izzy brought a dirisha that she was crying because of a fear of ending up with Esav, and that's something that a number of the rabbis teach. We're going to learn the following way. When we say Enei le'arakot, it means that her eyes were less brilliant than her sisters. It's true, less bright, which we're going to explain was an expression of what she stood for, what she embodied. What Leah embodies is Olam Hazeh, Olam HaTachton, the world we all live in and build our lives in and build our legacy in. Okay? Leah, less bright, let's call it less bright. And what is the less relative to? It's relative to the heavens, where there's unfettered light, where there's unfettered brightness. Okay? I want you guys to really challenge this, now, because I think this is a much more serious level to do it. Rachel's eyes, when it comes to describing Rachel, they describe her as Yifat To'ar and Yifat Mar'eh, right? She looked at things beautifully, and she was beautiful. And our rabbis suggest the following. Yaakov falls in love with Rachel. He's taken by her because of some overt value or quality of hers. What was it? Yaakov.
Spirituality.
What?
So that was a question.
Go ahead, honey. Yeah.
Saying that he relates to her more because they're both in the spiritual world, and it's more physical. So she completes Yaakov, but she wouldn't be the one he would look at because they're related as well.
Perfect, honey. Perfect, Noah. Perfect. Perfect. Grand slam. I'm going to flesh out Noah's point. Yaakov is attracted to Rachel because he saw the sulam, right? He saw the up and down. He wants to go right there. He wants to go straight up. He doesn't want to bother with this world. He grew up in the tent. He didn't grow up in the field. He doesn't want to know from it. His mother forces him to take the beracha of being successful in this world. He doesn't want to go there. So when she forces her son to get the beracha of this worldly abundance and success, he doesn't want it. Yitzchak doesn't want to give it to him. He doesn't want to take it. So when Rivka calls everybody out, she's calling him out too. And she's saying, wait, son, you can't skip this part. You can't skip this program. It doesn't work that way. You have to go step A, step B. You have to work it here and then enjoy it there. And now, when he sees the sulam, he gets part of it right, but not all of it. He says, you know what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing me the unbroken access between one and the other. Who wants one? I'll just take the other. I don't want it. I just want to go there. And then, to Noah's point, what's there? That's Rachel. Rachel represents the neshama side of the person, the greater than physical side. That's what Yaakov sees in her. That's what he falls in love with. And that's what he immediately wants. Okay, who is Leah? Noah, tell us again. Who is Leah?
The physical, the
She's here. She's the physical, right? Beautiful. Yeah. So is she as brilliant, as bright? Is there as much or light or knowledge coming from her as the other? Absolutely not. But Teddy, You gotta build with her first. There's no way you could skip to Rachel. There's no way. So, Izzy, you ready? Vahi boker, v'hinei hi le'ah. No, honey. What did we learn about boker? We touched on it, but we didn't drill in it. What did we learn about boker as opposed to Laila? You remember?
Okay, is light, and Lila is darkness.
It's what?
And that's light and darkness, learning and not learning.
Excellent. So what does boker provide? Clarity.
Light. Oh, it
Oh, yeah.
evens out the light. It evens out the light.
I got clarity. So what happens? What happens? He works the 7 years for Rachel, right? He's working. He's in the practical world. He's dealing with all the practical stuff. He figures, I did my stint. I'm done. I combated my Yetzer Hara for the last 7 years. I did good. I was out in the freezing cold at night watching, my father-in-law to be's herds. I did good. I dealt with my Yetzer Hara. I beat it. I'm ready. I'm done with this world. All I want is Rachel. He wakes up in the morning at a period of clarity. And who does he got? He has Leah, right? He has Leah. And what does Lavan say to him? It's grand slam. You got to stand up and cheer when you hear it this way. Lo ya'aseh ken b'mkomotenu latet se'ira lefnei ha'bechira. Meaning, it doesn't work this way in the world. You can't get to her just because you want it. You've got to make it work in the spiritual, in the physical world first. And then after you make it work in the spiritual world, you want that other person, you want the more spiritual life after you've made it work down here, tfaddal. But you can't take it now. So Lavan, with all due respect, he's no genius. And this wasn't about him being clever. And didn't we just say Yaakov is Sadiq? Didn't we just say he had prophetic capacity? So what happened here? He's beat out. How do you not know who the girl is? You're pining for her for 7 years. Her sister looks like her. Okay, but come on. You got to work harder than that. When you read a story like this, you have to work harder. It can't be that straightforward that Lavan beat him. It can't be. Of course it's not. Who cares? By the way, let's say it was that Lavan beat him, Teddy. Who cares? How many psukim do you want to spend telling me that he wanted one girl, he ended up with the other, and then he went back to the one he wanted? Who cares, right? Broken hearts, right? Yeah.
So Rabbi, so all the everyone's leading to the same message, Hashem's message, Lavan's message, and even like they're all saying the same thing. You have to go through this first before you can get that.
Grand slam. Yaakov doesn't want it.
Even Rivka's message, right? It's Rivka's message. They're all the same. All
Rivka's
three.
message. Excellent. It's Rivka's message. He doesn't want it. What do you mean? Give him the prophecy. Don't give him the rock. Don't move the mountain. 1 second, honey. You have to have a mountain. You got to work here. You're going to bring sacrifices here. You're going to put your head down on the rock that your father was almost sacrificed on, because it all has to happen here for it to happen there. Don't give me this otherworldly stuff. You didn't earn it. Cool? I mean, we can change the idea if you want. I'm just kidding. This is a great one. Yeah? Now, gets better. It gets better. He tells him, take the 7. Take the 7. The rabbis say maybe it's the 7 days of, celebration after the wedding. I don't know. We're going to explain it according to the Perush that goes that when Lavan tells Yaakov after he, gives him the wrong girl, which we know was the right girl because all this was done by Kadosh Baruch Hu and not Lavan. He says, okay, take time get it right with her, and then you can have Rachel. Now, guys, what happens? Now you're going to blow your mind. What happens? It says, Vachar yalda bat, vatikra et shema Dina. What ends up happening? Yaakov has a bunch of kids with Leah, right? He's building on the practical level, Teddy. Yeah. Then he has his daughter. He fulfills the primary obligation to become a person vested in this world. He becomes the father of a boy and a girl, right? He completed that basic obligation of Peru Udbu, but then he understands what it means that it starts here and it built here, doesn't end here, but it's built here. And then what happens? Then Rachel gets pregnant. She doesn't get pregnant until he makes it all work with Leah, including a daughter. Now he has become complete as a man. He has become complete as a husband. He has gotten some level, really, of understanding that it all goes from here, a very strong level of understanding. Now that you're anchored in this world with X number of children, boy and girl, that you understand the responsibilities, the opportunities, the obligations, that you've come through it, that you're here, your feet are on the ground. Now go ahead and start building with Rachel as well. Now we're okay to let you do that.
Physical thing that he's building.
Yes.
Spiritual.
It's still a physical thing, yes. It's Teddy's point, he's absolutely right. It's still a physical thing of building with Rachel. It's absolutely right, because she is here. She is here. But the upshot, the benefit, the primary benefit of building with Rachel was neshama. It's up here, not down here. Because we say that Rachel is the ultimate neshama. That's why, for example, she didn't have to be buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah. She's buried alone. She doesn't need the synergy of anybody else, right? We call her Imenu, right? We call her Imenu. We don't say, with the strong emphasis on that, because we believe that Rachel is the biggest spiritual presence, the Avot. And yes, you're right. It was manifested here because now he knew he had to manifest it here. Brought him to another level there.
Rabbi, would you just say about Rachel that she was at the highest spiritual plane, or what did you say?
They say that she is the neshama Eliona. That Rachel is the highest level neshama of all Bnei Israel. That's what we say about Rachel.
So, and where did we give Rivka credit for in the continuation of the lineage? That's not anywhere near what you're saying level-wise?
No, it's a great point. We Rivka, we said, what is the Abraham in a female, and without her, everything is finished. She first has the great courage to do what Abraham Avinu did, to leave everything. She comes with a black stain on her because of the evil of her family, as opposed, in addition to the good, but the evil. She sacrifices her life. She's confronted with a catastrophic reality about her children, and she sees it through. And she sees it through. So without Rivka, you have nothing. Without Rivka, you have nothing. That's the clearest point. We have to be very clear on that. That the same way without Abraham, you have nothing. Without Yitzchak, we wouldn't have had nothing. We would have had something. But without Abraham, we have nothing. Without Rivka, we have nothing.
I understand. Thank you.
By the way, one other thing to your point is very important. That without Yosef Sadiq, we have nothing. And you'll see that soon, that everything is thrown into a point where the Jewish dream, the Jewish vision was about to be lost. And who saves it? Yosef Sadiq. Without the machinations of Yosef Sadiq, without the pain that he brought on himself on his father, on his family. The dream was finished. It was finished. And when Yosef calls out his brothers and falsely accuses them, again, when you read the story up here, it's really a lot further down. He's calling them out. Why? Because the truth of the matter is they were disingenuous and they were misleading. And they did take the Jewish people in the wrong direction, what would be the Jewish people. And if it's not for Yosef's willing to sacrifice everything, his relationship to his father, his relationship to his family, his legacy, just like Rivka, if he didn't do that, you would have zero. The Jewish people were finished. So we'll see that when the time comes. Good?
Going back to this point of finishing the physical. That way, like we're blended much more like within like a simultaneous.
We're blended. What do you mean we're
I
blended?
mean, we're in the physical and the spiritual at the same time. Why did this process have to be like so linear?
Because who knew that? Teddy's asking great points. Say your question again. Yeah.
We don't live. Yaakov represents our lives, so we don't finish with the physical and then go to the spiritual. We work on both at the same time. So why couldn't he be working towards Rachel?
Excellent. So what do you want to say, guys? How do you want to answer that? It's a great question. How do you want to answer that? Huh? The answer is who knew that it works that way? Who knew? We had to establish that it works that way. Nobody knew that as a given. To us, it's a given. And primarily because, primarily to your point, because Yaakov evolves into Israel, goes through the process of Leah, Rachel, and then he goes through the process of Lavan, and then Esav, and then comes back home. And because of all of this very, very, very long and very detailed story about Yaakov, we ultimately finally buy into the fact that we live in both together. Because without all this, nobody would believe it. Nobody could get it, right? You have Esav and Yaakov. One said it's here, one said it's there, right? Yaakov didn't get it. It didn't understand that you could build both. It was very hard to understand that. We take it as a given because that's how we live, right? Oh yeah, of course. You know, but it wasn't. It was almost impossible to fathom. Yeah.
So we don't recreate his process. We live post.
I don't know. I think that's a great point. Do we recreate his process or not? I think we do. I think each person does. I think each person really does. And maybe collectively we do as well. But the process is already established as true. We don't have to prove positive the process. What we may want to do is work it for ourselves to make it true to us in our life, how we live, but we don't have to prove it again. Cool. All right, guys. For anybody who can make it, we're learning tonight at Shat Etzion at 5:40 downstairs in the green room. If anybody can make it till 6:30, love to see you. And otherwise, God willing, on for Sunday, 9:15. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, my friends.
Have a great Shabbat. See you all. Thank you.